So hit sounding, there is quite a lot to it, but once you know what you're doing and all of the general advice, making good hit sounding can be very trivial. Now, I'm not sure how much people know about hit sounding, so I'm literally just going to go over the absolute basics. So there's three main sample sets. There's normal, soft, and drum, and each of these sample sets have what we call a hit normal, which is what plays when there's nothing on it, just the default. And each of these sample sets also has what we call additions, which is the whistle, finish, and clap here. So when it comes to picking samples that you want to use, the most important thing is to use samples which translate well into the default skin. So firstly, actually, just to mention, the way that you add custom samples is you open the map folder and you just add a wave file with that name. So you can see in this there is a normal hit normal, which is just what's played when the normal sample set is selected with nothing else. There's also a drum hit normal, which is the same thing. That's the hit sound that would play when just the drum is selected with nothing else on it, no additions. And then there's also stuff like the soft hit clap, which is of course what would play when the soft sample set is selected and there is a hit clap. So the way to actually apply hit sounding is it's quite simple, but it can seem really daunting. So the sample set, of course, this top option here is just what is always played. It is like the default sound. So the default sound here, if I turn the volume up, if I remove that clap, it is just that it's quite muted sound that always plays. So you can of course select the, let's call it the bass sound. You can select the sound that you want to play in the background, but the good thing about having these two options in the top is because you can select the bass sound and then the additions, you can have this be a different sample set. So for example, if I wanted this circle here to have this drum hit normal, I can select the drum sample set. And if I then wanted it to also have this soft hit clap here, I can have it have the drum sample set, which is the default sound, and I can select the soft additions and then put a clap on. So now this hit sound will play the drum hit normal and the soft hit clap. So, of course, there is normal, soft, and drum. Auto, what auto means, it means it will automatically default to the sample set of the timing section. So in the timing section, this timing point here, you can of course select either normal, soft, or drum. So with this being on soft, well, it is soft custom 1, so that means that your custom hit sounds in the folder are enabled. Soft custom 1, it means that the auto, this will automatically play the soft sample set and the soft additions. Now, just a little thing about hit sounding. This might make it a bit more efficient to hit sound, but it's not necessary. If I select the drum sample set, then the additions will automatically be drum. So if you wanted to do the drum hit normal and the drum hit clap, you can select the sample set as drum and leave the additions at auto. Although whether you have the additions at auto or drum doesn't really make a difference, to be honest. So that is just the basics of applying hit sounds. You can also apply hit sounds to sliders. So you can apply hit sounds not only to slider heads. If you double click on a slider head, it will show up as being red, and that means that you've selected the slider head to hit sound. And you can also do the same for the slider tail. When you are applying hit sounds to sliders, make sure you have selected the correct part of the slider you want to hit sound. You can also, now that I've double clicked on the body, you can see the body is showing red. You can hit sound slider bodies themselves, which means there are two hit sounds for a slider body. There's a slider slide, which is just the default sound for a slider slide. A lot of people do mute the slider slides, which I'll tell you how to do. You can also apply a slider body whistle. So it's like a whistle which plays throughout the body of the slider. There is an example of this in this map. On this slider, there is a whistle used for the high-pitched sound. So that is something to bear in mind. So there is a normal hit normal, a soft hit normal, and a drum hit normal. And there's also a normal hit clap, hit finish, hit whistle, and the same for soft and drum. All of those which you can customize, although you don't have to use them all. So with me saying, of course you can use custom hit samples, but if you want to do good hit sounding, you need to make hit sounding which also works well with the skins, with the default skins hit sounds. So if I play this map, I'll just set the volumes back to normal. You'll hear it with the custom hit sounds. Now that is with the custom hit sounds, but the way that hit sounding is designed, if I select this from using the custom hit sounds to the default, so now we'll just use the default skins hit sounds. It translates really well from using custom hit sounding to default hit sounding. Now the reason that is because you should decide when choosing your samples, what people will typically do is be consistent with the hit sounds the default skin uses. So for a drum hit normal, so a drum hit normal like that, a lot of people will use this hit sound for the kick in a song. For a soft hit normal, they'll usually use this as just the default sound throughout the map. And the normal hit normal is a very strong sound. If I put this back to default and I set all of these to normal, actually this timing point is 5%. So with the timing points, you can change the sample set here and the custom. You can also change the volumes as well, of course. So the normal hit normal in the default skin, if I set this to using defaults, is really loud and obnoxious. So the normal hit normal sound you typically shouldn't use just because of how loud and overpowering it can be. With the hit normal, it needs to be the kind of sound which you can use a lot and spam a lot without it overbearing the song. So the normal hit normal is something you should only use in specific circumstances on very strong sounds. Now the soft hit whistle is what people will use as additional hit sounding in most cases, because by additional, when people hit sound, they will use the hit whistle to emphasize the layer that they are following, to emphasize their active rhythms. And the soft hit whistle in the default skin is quite pleasant. It's not a weak sound, it is something which is audible, but it is something which you can use quite a lot without it becoming overbearing. And the normal hit whistle is something you should never ever use because it's the worst sound ever. You can maybe use this on very high pitch intense sounds. So for example this on here. but it's something which you should only use in very specific circumstances. Now that is the whistles explained. Now the soft hit clap is what people will typically use for snares. If I put claps on all of these. Now people usually use this as snares because it does fit quite well. The drum hit clap is like a tom. So you can use this in quite a lot of circumstances. If it ever shows up in the music, like this kind of sound, you should definitely use drum hit claps on it. And then normal hit claps are just like soft hit claps, but they're a bit stronger. Like they're more of an actual clap. So again, it is preferable to use soft hit claps, but you can use normal hit claps if there is quite literally a clap in the song. Now for the finishes, the soft hit finish is just a simple crash. The normal hit finish is like a crash, but it's got a kick behind it. It's a lot stronger. So you can use this for when you need like a big finish on a hit sound. And the drum hit finish is like a lower pitch tom. It's like a lower pitch version of the drum hit clap, but with a bit more strength behind it. So when selecting your samples, you need to keep in mind how it would sound with the default samples and make it in a way where it would copy over. Because a lot of players, myself included on occasion, do play with hit sounds disabled. So when you are typically hit sounding, the hit normals and the clap and the finish, you should use for hit sounding the actual percussion. And then once you've hit sounded the percussion, you should use the whistles for actually emphasizing the layers that you're following. So I would always recommend hit sounding the percussion first. Now I'm gonna actually hit sound a map just to kind of go over the general process of it in a second, just a random map. But those are the pretty much all of the basics of hit sounding. So if I go back here, I'm going to go to this map. So the way that I would start by hit sounding this is going to be quite simple to hit sound actually, but I would start by creating a new difficulty. I'll call the difficulty hit sounds. And then I'm going to clear all objects. And I'm going to delete all of the inherited points, so it's completely fresh. The good thing about hit sounding with a hit sound difficulty is you can copy paste drum patterns which repeat. So this is a kick, so I'm going to select the drum hit normal. This is a clap, so I'm going to select the soft hit clap. Now of course the sample set is already soft, so I don't need to add any additions. I don't need to change any of this because it's by default auto is soft. And then I'm just going to copy paste this here because it repeats. And it repeats again. Now there's an extra kick here, so I'm going to add another circle and select the sample set as drum. And there's a kick here now as well. And I've just listened to that section and I can hear that the drum pattern repeats. Now the drum pattern changes here, so I am going to need to actually do this again. So whenever I start hit sounding, I will start by just doing the percussion. So the kicks and the claps. Now there's a kick here. So drum sample set. Now there's 3 kicks in a row. So I'm just going to set the drum sample set. And then so I don't need to click, I'm just going to copy paste it like that. And I had the drum hit normal in my clipboard, so I'm just going to copy paste it. And then we've got the same pattern again. And then we've got a right, so it's been 2 minutes and I've already done the drum hit sounding for the first 25 seconds. That's how quick hit sounding can be. I am ignoring all of the melody and everything else going on. I'm just listening to the percussion for this first step of the hit sounding. Now there are some other percussions in the background here, so I'm just going to listen again. So I can hear this. Now this sound here of course, this sound that's behind here is a lot weaker. So what I'm going to do with these, instead of using the soft hit clap, I am going to actually use the soft hit clap. But I'm going to switch the custom sample set to 2. So what that means is when I add the custom soft hit clap file into the map folder, I can add a second one called soft hit clap 2, and it will switch to the second one in this section here. Oh, my game is just chugging a little bit. Right, and then we have a kick here. If you notice as well, I am ignoring the finishes. It's my preference to do the drums and the claps first, and then to go back after I've hit sounded to add the finishes and crashes and stuff in. So these are both kicks. If you listen to the song, there's actually not a kick here. But we're going to come back to that. Right, so the drum pattern in this part is quite simple. It is just drum, clap, and then it's clap, kick, clap, kick, like that. And it's just repeated. So all I do is I copy paste that and do that. And it's just repeated again. So I'm going to copy paste again. And I'm going to guess that it repeats again. I'm going to guess it just repeats through this whole thing. It wouldn't surprise me if it did. So I'm going to copy paste that whole section again, like this, but I'm going to listen to the song by turning the music up and the effects down, just so I know I'm not overhearing something. Yeah, so it actually changes here. So let me delete all of that. And I'll turn that back up. So it goes kick, it goes clap, kick, clap, kick. And then clap, kick, clap, kick. Now, when I'm actually doing this here, you'll notice, well, you'll notice that I'm not constantly clicking around here, because there are a lot of shortcuts when it comes to hit sounding. If you want to add a clap, you just select the object and press R, and it will toggle the clap on and off. If you want to add a finish, you press E. And if you want to add a whistle, you press W. So it can make it a bit quicker to hit sound if you know some of the shortcuts. There are other shortcuts as well, like pressing Shift E will select the soft sample set. Shift R will select the drum hit sample set. Shift W will select the normal sample set. But to be honest, doesn't really. I can barely ever remember them. And most of the time, when I'm hit sounding, I copy paste a lot. Like that. Because I knew that I had a drum hit normal in my clipboard, so I just copy pasted it. I suppose that's enough. I don't need to hit sound this full song. Now actually I've just noticed I switched to the soft custom, the second custom sample set here. So what that means is during this section, I'm going to add a file in the folder called soft hit clap 2, which is going to be another version of the custom hit clap that suits this section. But I wanted to switch back to soft, the custom one here. Let me just slap a bookmark there. So now that you've done the percussion, the next thing to do is, of course, to set where the finishes are going to go. So I'm going to want to put a soft finish here, just the normal symbol. So I'm going to select finish. I've just noticed if you hover, it tells you the shortcuts. That's handy. but I want this to be a soft finish, but with the drum hit normal. So I'm going to use the drum sample set and I'm going to set the additions to soft. There's another crash here in the song. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to select soft and then finish. There is also one here as well. Is there one there? Let's listen back. I think there was one there. Yeah, there is one there. Oh, I've just noticed I've missed a kick. So I'm going to add the drum. And there's another finish here, so I'm going to add a finish. And I'm going to select the soft additions. There are crashes on here, but they're not very strong. The good thing about this is, in this section, we're in the second custom sample set, so we can add a second hit sound, which is a weaker crash, which would suit this section better. I'm going to add a circle here. I'm going to set this as a finisher, but because we're already in the soft sample set, I don't need to change the auto up here. Now, because this is effectively the start of a Kai section, I'm going to use the finish, but I'm going to use the normal. So this will be the normal hit finish, which is the more stronger crash. And then there's a crash here. So now we've done all of the finishes, we've done all of the kicks and all of the snares. There's not been much else really. Sometimes you'll come across songs which have toms in them, and drum rolls and hi-hats and stuff like that. You do basically just do the same thing. Whereas if you have a hi-hat, you'd set a normal hit whistle. So you'd just select whistle and then additions normal. This has been quite a simple song. Maybe this was a bad example to hit sound. Or maybe not actually, because I guess it was simple. But now that you've done that, the next thing to do is to set the volumes. Before you set the volumes though, it's a good idea to actually at this point, if you haven't already, to pick what samples you're going to use. Now, if you hit sound, generally you do copy and paste hit sounds between sets. So I'm going to copy these hit sounds from a set which I know the hit sounds work. Let's copy them from this one. So I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to copy the drum hit normal because that is just a kick. I'm going to copy the soft hit clap. And I'm going to copy the soft hit finish. And I may as well copy the soft hit whistle because we're going to need that at some point. Now, slider slides. A lot of people use a blank file for a slider slide because a lot of people are against slider slides in hit sounds. If you don't know what a slider slide sounds like, which you might actually not know, it is this sound. If I set this to 100, it's that. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound or not. I'll turn the music down. It is the sound that plays during a slider. But a lot of people will add a blank file like that one, which is just silence. So if I set this back to using the custom, now the only thing that plays during this slider is the slider ticks. By the way, slider ticks are also hit soundable, but it's very situational that you actually want to hit sound a slider tick. So that's the slider slide. So I'll copy that as well. So I'm basically just copying all of these. And then I'll go back to here. And I'll paste them in. So now these hit sounds are all in here. Now, you can of course copy hit sounds from other sets, and honestly no one's going to care if you steal the hit sounds, because all hit sounds are stolen anyway. But there are a couple of hit sound libraries. The one that I usually use if I want a certain sound is this one. It's called Fox's Sample Pack. It's got a lot of hit sounds in it. Like a lot. Oh, it's got skinning elements in it as well, apparently. Now, actually, I do need to search for a hit sound. I've got all of my hit sounds for the first custom, but I do need hit sounds for the second custom sample set. So I need a finish, and I also need a clap. So I'm not even sure where to start looking in here. Let's listen to the sound. You do want to select hit sounds which match well with the music for your custom samples. The only problem is sometimes they can match too well and your hit sounds actually blend into the song. That's the problem that a lot of key sounded maps have. Because they're key sounded, they blend into the song so well that they don't actually provide any feedback. If you hit them accurately, they sound almost silent. So let's turn the music back up. So it's kind of just a very muted tap, I guess. So, which one of these looks like it could be what we want? Definitely not that. I know what we can use. And only because it's funny. So we can use the drum hit clap from this map. drum hit clap 1. Okay, open song folder, drum hit clap. Let's copy that. Let's paste it into this. And I'm going to rename it soft hit clap 2. This is just a cowbell, by the way. This hit sounds just a cowbell, pretty much. Because I couldn't, it's going to find me a long time to find a fitting sample. I just want to show the fact that you can use different samples per section. And as for the finish, I wanted a bit of a more special finish for this section, because in fact, as a matter of fact, the finishes are the same, they're just slightly quieter. What I'm going to need to do here, because I've switched to the second sample set, I'm going to need to copy paste the soft hit finish. This is the annoying thing sometimes about hit sounding, is that you need to have duplicate files. So I'm going to copy that soft hit finish too. I'm also going to copy the soft hit whistle for when we do the additions in a moment. And then I'm going to copy the soft slider slide. As a matter of fact, there is a more efficient way to do this. Now, when you're hit sounding, you do kind of want to minimize the number of files that you have in your hit sounding folder, which sometimes can be hard because it ends up using sometimes the samples that you use can maybe not be the most efficient. So for these, I'm going to use the drum hit clap instead, just so that I don't need to copy and paste all of these and have files I don't need. I can just use the drum hit clap. Now the drum hit clap, it is like a tom, which isn't strictly speaking matching the sound here. However, the sound is quite unique compared to the other claps. So I don't mind it not being 100% accurate with default hit sounds. It doesn't matter too much. It's something that you should always aim to do, is have your hit sounds translate well into the default skin. However, I do think that drum hit normal might not fit the song perfectly, but it will still work well in terms of creating a kind of contrast between the claps in this section and the claps in the others. So these are all drum hit claps. And the reason why you want to select your samples before you set your volumes is the volume of your samples. What you should do is set your volume as normal. Just listen to the song. So this song throughout this section, it's kind of going up in volume. So I'm going to set the volumes per section first. So I want this to start at 60%, maybe. Then from here, it sounds like it's fading out. So I'm going to drop it by 5% each measure. So it's going to go to 55. Then it's going to go down to 50. Then it's going to go down to 45. Then it's going to go down to 40 when it's quite faded out. Then it's going to go down to 35. Then I'm going to have it jump back up at this point to 60. Then, because this section is quite loud, it's going to jump up to 80. So you kind of just have to have a feel for the general volume and intensity of the song and set your volume in per section that way. When the song is fading out or building up, that's a reason for you to increase or decrease volumes over a shorter period of time. Now, you might be tempted to think the song is fading out here and then to set this volume back down to 60. That would be a bad idea because this finish here is quite strong. So what you typically want to do at the end of a section where there is a kind of climax is to set the volume back down after the last object. So if I set it as 60% here, now this last circle is still 80% volume. So it isn't ruining the climax, the final circle being lower volume. And I guess it didn't matter because I didn't hit sound this bit. Now the volumes are done, I'm just going to take a second pass on everything. Make sure I've not missed any claps or kicks. And just seeing if there's anything else I can do with the volumes at this point. I've missed this, look. It is set as drum sample set. I should have set it as... This should not have the kick though. So we need to remove that, set it to auto, so that it's using the default sample set for the timing point. And then I need to select the additions of drum. And in fact, I just realised something. I didn't copy over that hit sound, did I? I've not actually put my custom hit sound in for this. Let's go back. It was the drum hit clap. Oh, funnily enough, I've used drum hit clap as the sample for both of these maps. Oh wait, I did. Oh, I'm confused now. Drum clap. Right, I see. So when you're inside a map and you add any files to it, if you're inside the editor and you add hit sounds file into the map, you actually need to exit out and then come back in for the files to refresh. So now all of the percussion is done. It's pretty much there. I've got my samples that I want to use. Now, what I need to do is copy the hit sounding over. Now, the reason to make a hit sound diff to do the percussion is, of course, you can copy paste it, but you should always suit your hit sounding to the map itself. Now there is a tool, it's quite literally called mapping tools, which has quite a lot of mapping tools in it. One of those tools is a hit sound copier. It will copy hit sounds from one difficulty to another. So if I have this open in the editor, and then I click on this button here, it will automatically put in my hit sound difficulty. And then if I back out, and then I go to the difficulty that I'm actually hit sounding, I click this again. I want it to overwrite all of the hit sounds. Now the temporal leniency basically means if there are, so the way this tool works is it will of course match up which objects are at the same time and then copy the hit sounds over. However, you might have some hit sounds, or rather some hit objects, which are unsnapped. So this is just like a leniency for unsnaps. I want it to copy the hit sounds. I want it to copy the sample sets. I want it to copy the volumes as well. So this will copy over the hit sounds, but also copy over the volumes per section as well into each timing point. So this is useful for when if you ever map something with a lot of timing points, if you've got a lot of slider velocity changes, if you use this tool, it'll automatically set the volumes for all your timing points. So now I'm going to exit out and then come back here. Oh, actually, I didn't run it, did I? I don't think I did. So I'm going to run the tool. I'm going to exit out and then come back in. And now it will have copied over all of the hit sounds. And it will have also handily have set the volumes for me as well. One thing you'll notice straight away is I've hit sounded the percussion, but this, I've not mapped this isn't my map, but this song is ignoring the layer which I hit sounded with the cowbell. If you notice, some of them are missing. So what would be a good idea to do here is just to remove them all. Because whilst I might have hit sounded it, you can tell that it sounds kind of incomplete. Some are missing, so it sounds very weird. So it would honestly be best not to hit sound it. However, I'll leave it for now. Because I'm not actually hit sounding this for this person, it's just an example. Right. So now you've copied the percussion over. All you need to do now, we've done all of the claps, we've done all of the claps and finishes and the kicks. Now we just need to do the whistles. So you'll use whistles to emphasize the layer that you're following. Now I'm actually just going to do a small section on this bit. In fact, I'll do this section. So I'm going to put a whistle here, soft whistle. So the mapper's following the vocals. So right, this is making it a little bit awkward with these. The annoying thing you'll come across sometimes is so here originally I wanted to use the drum hit clap. for the cowbell sound, for the different claps in this section, but I also want to put a soft hit whistle on it. Now, I'm kind of lucky here. I've not used the drum hit whistle for anything yet. So what I can do, I can just go in here. This isn't perfect, but sometimes you do need to duplicate files. Now we could just do that and select, you might think this is a good idea, to be honest, and add the soft hit whistle to the drum hit whistle. The problem with that is, though, it's going to sound very odd if you have hit sounds disabled. Because if you remember, the drum hit whistle is like it's a hi-hat, the drum hit whistle. So it's going to be very strange to just have hi-hats scattered in. So I'm just going to remove it and select the soft hit whistle. So here it's switched from following the vocal to the synth. So I'm just going to add the additions on the synth. And then we've got the same problem here. I'll remove the clap and set this like that. So we've got the vocals on here now, so I'm going to put whistles on these as the mapper is following the synth in this layer. Now, you'll have noticed in this section I didn't actually put whistles on every vocal. So I put whistles on the slider head and the slider reverse, but not on the slider tails. Because in this example, if you're putting whistles on a layer, you generally don't want to put whistles on everything, because then the whistles aren't really emphasizing anything if you have it everywhere. So I've just put the whistles on the strongest vocals. And that's something which I need to do in this section as well, because pretty much I would need to put whistles on everything. So you need to be careful with how you use whistles. So in this example, I'm going to put a whistle on this, and on this, because I believe these three here are the most impactful sounds in the layer. I'm going to put a whistle here. Then of course I'm going to select the soft additions. I'm going to leave this without a whistle. In fact, I will put a whistle there. I lied. I'm going to put a whistle on there and there. I'm going to put a whistle on there, just for consistency with that. I'm going to put whistles on these. I'm going to put whistles on these, but I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to put a whistle on that, because it's a particularly strong sound in the layer. I'm going to put a whistle on that and that. I'm hoping that you're kind of picking up why I'm placing whistles where, because I really couldn't explain my reasoning for each one. So a lot of the times though, I am placing whistles on the most high pitched sound, which is usually the most impactful one. I'm just generally placing whistles where the mapper has decided to, emphasize a layer in a certain way. So you can see here, I've literally been subconsciously doing it. I've placed a whistle here and here because you can see these are the two most emphasized notes in this part. And I am generally skipping each second note on these just because these sounds are in groupings of two. And so I wouldn't want to just spam whistles on each 1/4 beat. I'm just placing whistles on every half beat pretty much. I'm going to put one there. I don't need to select that as soft, it's already auto. And then I'm going to place one here as well. And I'm pretty much always going to put whistles on these long sliders because they've got a whoop behind them. I'm only going to put whistles on the first slider of these patterns because these are the most impactful ones, and this pattern itself, the sounds in it aren't particularly strong. And then we continue. Right, okay, so this is going higher pitch. This could be a situation where you want to put whistles on everything. Because the sounds are kind of intense there. However, I'm going to go against that. I'm just going to put a whistle on each second note. Because generally, as I say, your additions should match the layer you're following. Not only in fact of what you're emphasizing in the layer, the mappers not really emphasize this layer properly. I would have expected them, because this sound is quite high pitch, to do a pattern like this. And if they had done a pattern like this with quite high spacing, it would make more sense to put a whistle on everything. But of course they've not mapped it that way. It's not really an intense pattern, so I'm not going to spam whistles. I'm just going to put one on each second note. So you do really have to kind of just use your intuition when you're doing the whistles in the map. Oh, that should be soft. Now, in fact, that's pretty much all I'm going to do. I feel like I've gone over a lot with hit sounding. This is pretty much the basics. the basic workflow of it, where you create a difficulty with percussion. You create the volumes, and then you go into the map, copy over the percussion that you hit sounded, and then add the whistles. There are other things that you can do as well. So, what you might decide to do is silencing slider ends. So just if you listen to this pattern here, now you might not necessarily want to hear these slider ends because they're not falling on anything specific. So what you can do, you can add a timing point on the next object. I'll keep this at 60% volume and then go back to this slider end, add another timing point and set it to 5% volume because 5% is the lowest that you can go. So what you can do after you've done all of the hit sound and all of the whistles as well, if you want to. I personally don't like muting slider ends, and I used to do it quite a lot actually. This is totally optional, but you can remove the volume from the slider ends. Now that sounds a lot better. I would do it in this example, just because the slider ends are very audible. Now, when people do mute slider ends, they typically only do it on extended sliders. So what that basically means is an extended slider is typically 3/4 beats long. So these are all 3/4 beats long. So you may want to just, you can do it quite quickly as well. I have a shortcut for adding a timing point. You can set it in the options, in the settings. You can set a timing point for adding an inherited section. So you can do it really quickly like that. So this is what people will do. You see it most often in, electronic songs like this. What people will go one step further. So whilst I'm down, I don't personally do it, but I'm okay with people muting these longer sliders like this. People will also mute slider ends from kick sliders, which are quite short, and I would recommend against doing this because when you play kick sliders with slider ends muted, it can feel very weird as a player. At least I find that personally, but that is just decide how you want when you want to mute slider ends. Typically only mute a slider end if there's no sound on there and you feel like your map can benefit from not having that slider end audible. So a good example of where that is used is this map. Has some slider end mutings in the Kai, so you can see them here. So this slide is muted, this slide is muted, and this slide is muted. But you do not have to do this. Not at all. As well as muting slider ends, you can also go back into your map and set objects per volume, objects per objects, that's the word I'm looking for. So in this map, after it was hit sounded, the map has decided, I'm not 100% sure how they actually hit sound in this, but I'm just assuming. What they've done is they've added volumes per object because the song is fading out per object. They've gone into the map and adjusted it like that. So that is something you can do as well. So you can use the hit sound difficulty to set your general volumes per section. And then once you actually go in and you've copied the hit sound difficulty over, you can set your whistles for the layers that you're following, and you can set per object volumes, and you can do your slider and muting, I would recommend doing that after you've actually done the main part of the hit sounding. Now, one more thing I did mention before about slider body whistles. Slider body whistles you can use on very intense sounds. So, if I go to this map, you can see on some of the very intense sliders, I've double clicked on the slider so the red becomes outlined, and I've used a whistle on it. And now the whistle is very, very, very strong, so you really shouldn't use it unless you think it's a good idea. However, it fits kind of well in this. So that is that. Now actually, I can use this mapping as an example, because as well as hit sounding, what people like to do as well is what's called color hacking. Well, actually, I guess it's called color haxing actually, for some reason. So of course, when you set your song up and you set your combo colors, you can just leave it at that. However, another thing that you can do is come up with a color scheme and have a certain color scheme of combo colors per section. So in this intro, I'm using blue and grey. And then as the song's evolving, I've added another colour. Then when the song gets quite harsh, I've changed colour schemes to like a yellow, orange, red thing. And then I've basically used a blue and white scheme for the calm sections and used red and orange for the intense sections. So you doing colour hacks can kind of add something nice to your map. The way that you do it, all you need to do is select your new combo, click on the arrow, and then pick what colour you want the next one to be. There's a bit of a bug with it though. You need to basically go from the start and select each colour in order if you want to do this, which can take quite a bit of time. Because if I, for example, set this to red, and then I go back and then I decide, oh, I want this to be pink, it will change the colour after it. It's very strange how it works. So you have to start from the beginning and go through each combo one by one and set them to the colours you want them to be. Now, you can of course do colour schemes per section like this. Another thing that you can do with it is use a specific colour on a special pattern or slider. So in this map, on the fast reverse sliders, I've used a darker colour. I've always made sure that there's a darker colour on these fast sliders, and then kept the lighter colours on the non-intense parts. And then of course I've switched, because the section calmed down, I switched to the other colour scheme. And then these longer sliders I've used pink. And then I switched back. So, yeah, colour hacks. Very hard to do. It's very map specific as well. It works really well on gimmick maps and stuff, just because you can do some, like in this example, if you have a gimmick map, you usually have some quite unique patterns which you can colour. You can set combo colours which match quite well. and it's quite obvious as to why I'm using these colours. But you don't have to go this complicated with it, really. You can just do colour schemes per section. So NASA did it in this map. So this is quite a cute example. It's like black and white. And then these colours here are quite muted. It goes back to black and white. And then in the Kai it switched to brighter versions of the colour, which is really nice. So it's not really doing anything complicated with these colour hacks, but it does add a lot to the map in terms of how you kind of see each section. So that is pretty much doing colour hacks. It is very time consuming, but if you take the effort to do it, it is worth it. Now, I don't think there's pretty much nothing else about hit sounding. I went through pretty much the whole process of hit sounding. I don't think there's anything else really to say about it. I'm almost definite that I've missed something. So if I have missed something, just let me know. If there's anything else that needs explaining, or maybe if I give another example of hit sounding or some examples, it might be a good idea. But yeah, any questions, just let me know.